Welcome to a special Monday edition of FFPC Insider Access live on the Better Sports Network. Hi, hello, and welcome to Fantasy Football Night in America as we celebrate the end of Week 12 with the beginning of Week 13 starting in just a few hours after the Niners and Panthers wrap up their festivities on Monday Night Football. My name is Eric Balkman. You follow me, connect with me on the X at Eric Balkman, on Blue Sky there as well. And of course, check out the FFPC at FFPC. You know me from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, as well as the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. My guest tonight is no stranger to these airwaves. He is one of the biggest hitters over at 1 Week Season on X. Of course, you check out his work at Rotoworld at Rotoworld_FB at HighLowFF. He is Mark Garcia, and he is sitting in with me tonight for 2 full hours. So glad to have you aboard, man. How's everything going in 2025 as far as fantasy football goes?
Dude, it's been a wild ride, man. This has been a crazy season. I mean, we say that every year, right? But this season has been, from a DFS perspective, which is obviously my primary focus over there at 1 Week Season, it has been very, we'll say, difficult to maneuver at the top. The scores needed to win tournaments this year in DFS have been much closer to optimal than they have been in previous years, which means like your margin for error has been so small. Combination of like the field being sharper, combination of the second, third full seasons of good projection systems, and now we're getting into sims and optimizers that are kind of running the show. So I mean, it's becoming a slaughter ground. It's been a really crazy season.
Do you feel like, I mean, is that basically what it is? Is like there's so many people that have gotten so good at it, and as far as, you know, AI and computer systems and sims and everything getting involved, it's just the confluence of all these things that's making it really difficult to win? Or what do you think, like, is the sole? I guess there's not a sole reason. As you said, there's a lot of things that go into it.
So I'm a game theorist by trade. I've spent a lot of my life kind of bettering my knowledge of the theory of games. And it's just kind of goes into the standard life cycle of a game, really. You look at kind of the life cycle of DFS, and it's been around since 2009 to 2010 is really when it took hold. So we're looking at 15, 16 years now. And for all those that are kind of familiar with new games and the strategy behind games, your edge is always going to be greatest the earlier you are. For those that are able to kind of think about the game, think about the strategy of games. So we're kind of into like stage 2 of DFS, where we're starting to get like more people are catching on. We know what works. We know what doesn't work is really the biggest thing. And it's with the now introduction of better sims and of better projections, you just have to generate slight edges in different ways. Like, we're past the days, even in just like season-long football, FFPC dynasties, we're beyond the stage of like just knowing football gets you an edge. Mm-hmm. That just doesn't do anything anymore, right? So you just have to be able to identify like, where can I gain an edge now? So that's where like my brain goes to, where like we're kind of in the maturation of these games. So now we just have to create edges in different ways, really.
So when I ask you how you have adjusted personally, the way that you play DFS, the way that you're helping other people win at DFS from a week-to-week basis, what do you think is the biggest thing that you've changed this year? Or is change too strong a word? Is tweak a better word, Mark?
Yeah. So, and I think it has to do with the state of the league first. We're seeing defenses obviously are going to heavier rates of 2 high, umbrella coverages, and higher rates of nickel dime, trying to eliminate explosive plays. So in the sample size of one game specifically for DFS, I'm much more interested in those players that are those teams that are generating explosive plays. Mm-hmm. That's why we're targeting like the Bengals the way that we are. We're targeting the Cowboys because these teams are giving up explosive plays at an inflated rate. Last week was a good example for the Lions against the Giants. Like, it was very clear that Jahmyr Gibbs was set up to absolutely go nuclear. The Giants were giving up the second highest explosive run rate in the league heading into the week. So that's kind of where my mentality has shifted a little bit in DFS, where obviously we're just concerned about 1 week, a 1 week sample, a 1 week season. And so I'm much more interested in the teams, the players, the situations where we can't predict those things, but we can have a better idea kind of where those explosives are going to happen.
I want to let everybody know tonight that Mark is going to be joining us for 2 full hours. We're going to go around the NFL not once, but twice tonight because we have the time. And then the middle segment, the meat of the fantasy sandwich, if you will, tonight will be our Monday Night Football preview. That's coming up in about 40 minutes or so. We're going to talk about this Panthers-Niners game, talk about guys like Rico Dowdle, Xavier Legette, and then Christian McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings, and the Niners defense, so on and so forth. And then we'll get into a bunch of other stuff as far as the Jaguars and Cardinals go. There was a lot of stuff to unpack from that game. Some injury reports that came out today regarding Marvin Harrison. I think that there's a lot to unpack there. We'll get into that Chiefs-Colts game as well as the Packers and Vikings, as well as what in the heck is going on with Lamar Jackson. Now, the FFPC Weekly Challenge, I'll let everybody know, it's already live for Week 13. Check it out. No draft, no salary cap. Just pick 10 players, win up to $2,500, 10, 30, and 100-team contest, 1 player per NFL team. So if you want Joe Burrow, you can't have Jamar Chase. If you want George Pickens, you can't have Javonte Williams. myffpc.com, myffpc.com is where to go. Shout out to our producer, Sean Engel, tonight. Let's get into it, Mark. The way I will lead things off is Mike Garafalo's report from earlier this afternoon that T. Higgins is not going to be playing against the Ravens on Thanksgiving night. It's the way that he left that game and the fact that that was a Sunday and they play already on Thursday, I kind of figured that the writing was on the wall there as far as Higgins not playing in Week 13. And quite frankly, Week 14 is probably a question mark with the Bengals taking on the Bills. I want to ask you about Iosivas, Andrei Iosivas, who played in place essentially of Jamar Chase this past weekend. He ends up getting 4 catches for 61 yards, saw 7 targets, obviously double-digit fantasy points, so he didn't kill you. It wasn't necessarily a huge boon for you either. But now that we know that Chase will be back and Higgins is going to be out, how should we be treating Iosivas? And quite frankly, let's expand it to Burrow as well as they get ready to take on the Ravens Thanksgiving night.
Yeah, right. I mean, you nailed it right there. There's a lot of moving pieces here. We get Jamar Chase coming back from the 1-game suspension. You get Joe Burrow, who hasn't played in 6-7 weeks. And then T. Higgins with the concussion. To me, it comes down to like what this offense is. And when you look at the structure of the Bengals offense, they are not a team that is going out and scheming players open. They are effectively looking to generate one-on-one mismatches. That's all they're doing. It's a very vanilla offense. And when you look at like the players they have within that structure, Jamar Chase is really the hubcap. He's the key component of making that work this season. That's why we're seeing more in-breaking routes. We're seeing more layup targets. We're seeing more like fantasy smoothing targets, I call them, where it's like higher confidence, get the ball in his hands and then see what he can do after. So the fact that he is coming back is a very different setup than say T. Higgins were coming back and they had just played with Jamar Chase. So last week it was Iosivas who kind of stepped into that higher slot snap rate role, whereas missing T. Higgins, expect Mitchell Tinsley to be out there just running wind sprints. They're just like, go take a defender off the page for us. Because they're still going to want to be just generating mismatches for Jamar Chase. So they're going to use him in motion. And the funny thing about this offense is they're not using heavy rates of RPO. They're not using heavy rates of motion. It's just this very vanilla thing where they're looking to layer their route structures and their route layering are just effectively to get one-on-one situations. And they just think that their guys can go out and beat your guys. So like within that discussion, Andrei Iosivas isn't a guy that they're going to be actively scheming stuff for. He's just kind of a guy that has been required to be their wide receiver 3 for the better part of the last 2 seasons, just out of necessity because they have sunk so much salary into their top 3 guys. So I don't think Andrei Iosivas is going to see any meaningful bump in opportunities here. It's likelier to be Mike Gesicki, who kind of was the featured guy in the first couple of drives last week. Then it would be Andrei Iosivas. And then it's just like the runway is set for Jamar Chase to see 15, 20, some ungodly amount of targets here.
Yeah, and that was my concern too. Like with Chase coming back, like it's Burrow, right? And it's not Flacco. Although Flacco had that one game where he targeted. I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but I believe
23.
23. I thought it was like 103. The way that went,
Yes.
but that's the way it seemed like. And we get Burrow back now. You talk about how they've sort of been operating their offense this season, just expecting guys like Higgins, Chase to sort of do it themselves. Does that change at all with Burrow this week, or is it still like, listen, we still believe in Chase, we still believe in our guys. Our offense is going to remain the same, but we'll be able to unpack it a little bit more, expand it a little bit more, maybe with Burrow than we could with Flacco.
Yeah, no, I don't think it changes materially, and I think that's why they went out and got Joe Flacco when they did. I mean, they were looking at a sinking ship. They're trying to write the right things. They knew that like their division, no one was running away with it, so they go out and they get a guy who, structurally speaking, can play quarterback similarly in a similar way to Joe Burrow. So I don't think anything materially changes here. I think it's just like Jamar Chase, and then we do have above average rates of running back target rates from both Joe Flacco and Joe Burrow. So Chase Brown is going to see his 6 to 8 targets through the air, probably out of necessity as well, which obviously gives him a higher floor here.
Kev Wheeler bringing up that Gesicki is the Higgins replacement. Obviously, this past week, he saw 6 targets, which was just one off the team lead. He gets 4 catches for 35 yards as well. Kev also chiming in, if Jermaine Burton didn't have mental health issues, Yoshibas would be on the Giants right now. There's a lot to unpack with that statement as well. We just don't have the time for it. But yeah, you could be right in regards to that. Let me ask you one final Burrow question before we move off the Bengals. Cincinnati's 3-8 right now. They could very easily be 3-9 after the Baltimore game on Thursday night. Is there any chance at all that Burrow comes back only to be shut down and get ready for next year, given his proclivity for getting hurt for these freak injuries at all? How likely is that if they end up losing this game to Baltimore?
I mean, it's a distinct possibility, but I would say this team, like, if you look back at the last 3-4 seasons, the second half of the Bengals seasons have effectively all been this, like, let's see if we can make this work next year. So I don't know. And that, I think that's just a function of sinking so much of their salary cap into 3 players, which is an interesting discussion for the Cowboys coming up this offseason as well. It makes it very hard to build around that. And while Joe Burrow is one of the probably top 2 pure pocket passers in the league, and while Jamar Chase is one of the arguably top 2 wide receivers in the league, and while T. Higgins is probably one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league, this is still a team that's going to struggle. And it's wash, rinse, repeat. I mean, look at their defense over the last 5 seasons, dating back to like their trip to the Super Bowl. It's been rough, man. So I don't know, like that's within the range of outcomes, I think, but I think this team is still kind of like holding on to that sliver of hope that like, hey, we can maybe make it back there someday. And that's, I think, why the core of this team has kind of stayed together for so long.
Total on that game for Thursday night is at 51.5. Ravens sit at a 7-point favorite currently as well. Lots to unpack with that. We're going to talk about Lamar Jackson, and you just alluded to Dallas with George Pickens. That's coming up in a couple of minutes too. Before we get to that, I want to talk about the big news from Sunday Night Football last night. Baker Mayfield apparently sprained his left shoulder. He's undergoing an MRI today. Now, the MRI revealed a low-grade sprain in his, I believe, non-throwing shoulder. And Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network said that this is good news with an eye toward next week, end quote. So it sounds like Mayfield may not be likely for week 13, but week 14, and because he plays in the NFC South, it seems like that division is in contention every single year. And the Buccaneers have won it the last 3 years. They want to get him out there after the Cardinals game if he can't go this week. Teddy Bridgewater, 62 yards on 15 pass attempts. Let's unpack this here at least for this coming week. If Mayfield is out, how much would you downgrade guys like Cade Otton, Emeka Egbuka, Tez Johnson, right? And then if Mayfield is out there, granted in some pain, playing through a bad left shoulder, how much would you still downgrade those guys? This is not an ideal situation for any of these pass catchers here, Mark, but when you look at the possibilities for this Tampa Arizona game here, how do you sort of unpack the range of outcomes for these wide receivers and tight ends?
Yeah, I mean, first off, like Baker's availability is obviously a huge deal. Teddy Bridgewater goes from high school coach to back in the league. Did not look great. And to be fair, like that offense, or they managed only 193 yards of total offense last night. So they didn't look great altogether. But I think it comes down to a pain management situation for Baker. Very clearly, he was in a lot of pain at the end of the second or the first half, where he tried to launch that Hail Mary and ducked it, and he like immediately grabbed his left shoulder. I think it's a situation very similar to what we saw this past week with Aaron Rodgers, where they're probably going to push. He's probably going to push to play. It's probably going to be a button of the heads with the coaching staff and the team doctors. And I think the outcome of tonight's game probably will play a lot into it as well. Now we have the Panthers and the Buccaneers tied atop the division, obviously with the Panthers yet to have their bye week. So the outcome of tonight's game might influence their decision next week as well.
Yeah, I think you have to look at that. My initial just reaction on this game, assuming, I guess I'm assuming that Mayfield misses this game. They are currently a 3-point favorite. I mean, the Cardinals are 3-8. It's not like they got a team of world beaters. My initial quick and dirty analysis here on Monday is like, I'd still be willing to play Otten. I'd still be willing to flex out Egbuka. After that, Tez Johnson gets real dicey for me, man. And we could, and I don't know if this factors into it all. Sounds like we're finally going to get the return of Bucky Irving in this game. So Tampa is not only going to have Irving, but they should have a healthy Sean Tucker and Rachaad White. Maybe it's just a heavy ground game attack too that we see against Arizona.
Yeah, and we've seen Grizzard do that in multiple instances this season, where he just kind of takes the matchup and takes what the opposition is giving him. One interesting aspect about that is the Buccaneers have run behind man gap concepts over 65% of their team rushes this season. And it's not even Bucky Irving who leads the team in yards per carry behind those concepts. It's actually our boy, old Sean Tucker. So it'll be interesting too. There's a lot of moving pieces there. Sean Tucker has seemingly taken over the lead in the backfield over the last 2 weeks over Rachaad White. Rachaad White is very clearly the better, like, third down passing situation back. So do they go back to immediately a Bucky Irving, Rachaad White backfield? Do we see heavier rates of Sean Tucker mixing in on early downs? There's just a lot of moving pieces here. And I will say that I think Cade Otton does enough to ding his fantasy upside. He doesn't need like a quarterback change here. Doing even more. That was rough in the first quarter last night, where he kind of just handed the team a defensive score. But we would have to significantly downgrade everybody. We saw Emeka Egbuka see 5 targets in the second half, catch 1 of them with Teddy Bridgewater under center. So it'd be a massive hit to all of them.
I want to talk about George Pickens now, who came off another fantastic game against the Eagles yesterday. 9 catches on 9 targets, 146 yards, and a touchdown against a defense that's been pretty stingy against opposing receivers this year. Was not the case yesterday. And you can make the case. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but everything I've read and listened to over the course of the last 24 hours is telling me that it's actually Pickens who's been more of the number 1 wide receiver on Dallas over the last 3 to 4 weeks over a guy like CeeDee Lamb. Now, this just coming in from X 10 minutes ago, George Pickens, dealing with both knee and calf injuries, did not practice today. However, it seems like the scuttlebutt believes that he is going to be playing on Thursday for the Cowboys against the Chiefs in that matinee game that we'll get Thursday afternoon. Listen, anybody who drafted Pickens, you're loving life right now. I don't know what Dallas is going to do next year. I would assume that they simply franchise tag this guy and then they bring back Pickens and already have Lamb there as well. This is really good news for Dak Prescott. And I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how you think about this. The stuff with Pickens that we've seen over the course of the last 3 or 4 games, is this sustainable for the end of the season? Or is Lamb just so good that at some point Pickens is going to draw more of the attention from opposing defenses and we get to see some of these, big time spike week games from CeeDee Lamb that we've seen in the past? It's a good problem to have for Dallas. Frustrating for fantasy owners not knowing who the guy is going to be from week to week, though.
Yeah, I thought last night or on Sunday when they played the Eagles, I thought it was a big litmus test for this team, particularly for George Pickens and how the Eagles were going to utilize Quinyon Mitchell, because that was really the biggest chess match to me, was like, where's Quinyon going to go? Are the Cowboys going to like effectively just stick Pickens out there running 7 to 9 routes to occupy Quinyon Mitchell, and then have like CD be like working underneath routes, working crossers, working over, in breaking routes to get him going? And they kind of just didn't. So I don't know, like the way that this offense is structured right now, their run game gives them a little bit better ability to be attacking downfield with greater success. There's something they haven't had over the last 2 seasons, really, where aging Zeke and he goes away and then comes back. But like Javonte Williams, I've been impressed with his ability to just consistently churn out like plus yardage. His stuff rate is well below average. He's not generating the explosives that we would like. He's not going to run away from people, but he's able to keep the team from falling behind the sticks. And that allows a guy like Shoddy to go out there and dial up a lot of play action. And Dak has just eaten that up, and he's really latched on to George Pickens. So, short answer is I don't know, but I think last week was an interesting litmus test, to where George Pickens is asserting himself as a clear alpha in the league, and I think he's going to want to be paid less such coming off of his contract year.
And that's the thing, Pickens, it seems like anything's possible with him. I mean, the Steelers got rid of him for a reason. It wasn't because they didn't think he was good at football. I think there was other stuff going on there. And I wonder how he would play it out if he was franchise tagged, right? Like, it could be we spend all summer wondering what's going to happen with Pickens. Obviously, Jerry Jones played a game of contract chicken with Micah Parsons this past season, and he ended up trading Parsons. So anything's possible with trading Pickens for something. I don't know. But we'll just enjoy the ride while we can in 2025 for sure.
Also, I'll add to that. I mean, Jerry's probably looking at what's happening with Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers and being like, oh, we're not making that mistake. So it'll be a very interesting offseason for the Cowboys for sure.
Yeah, and he referenced that after the Parsons trade, he referenced that Herschel Walker trade that he did with Minnesota back in the day that basically got him all those draft picks and championships. Now, I don't think any GM in the NFL worth his salt is giving up that treasure trove for any one player. I think that we've learned a lot about how to value draft picks, especially in today's salary cap day and age. But it's interesting to think that was still at the forefront of his mind when he did the Parsons trade. Honestly, anything possible here with Pickens. I get a buddy who is telling me that Pickens, and he said, granted, he didn't know what the salary cap situation was like for the Buccaneers. He thinks Pickens, they'd either trade him there or they would just let him go to free agency and he'd sign with Tampa. And that would be an interesting situation with Baker Mayfield there, Pickens, Egbuka, and then, Mike Evans could be done after this year. Godwin, I don't know what's going on with him as well. Do you have any thoughts? I mean, he made his return last day. He just does not look like the same player. I don't know if they rushed him back, but this is a guy that I really am not dying to get in business with right now, Mark.
No, they were just very clearly easing him back. I mean, he was playing primarily key downs. He was out there for third downs. He made a couple of nice grabs. He got 2 of 4 targets, I think, but both of his catches went for first downs. So he was just effectively eased back in. It didn't come out till last week that he had a hairline fracture in his fibula, which has got to be unpleasant. So I don't know. I would say with the team giving Godwin that contract extension, it probably would be very difficult to go land a George Pickens. So I don't think that I honestly would place that at very low odds of happening just based on the structure of their team and their salary cap situation. But I think Jerry's going to try and do his damnedest to probably play some hardball, but he's probably going to try and keep Pickens if I had to guess.
And they could just franchise take him, right? And they would do that, I would imagine. Yeah. If we were to speculate, because this is what we do for fun, if George Pickens is not on the Cowboys next year, is there a team that you can think of off the top of your head that not only could use him, but would have the means to acquire him and perhaps sign him to a long-term deal? Or is there not anybody out there that's, I mean, maybe there's some moving parts that have to happen in order for a team to be able to take on his contract or his future contract as well. Anybody sticking out to you right now?
Not really off the top of my head, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously so much that's going to happen between now and the open of the new league year that I don't even know if I can speculate, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fine. And we'll have plenty. We'll pretty much have all off season to speculate.
Yeah.
For sure. Getting back to that Cowboys Eagles game here with Pickens, I want to talk about the other side of the ball. Saquon Barkley in this game, 10 carries for just 22 yards. Now he did get 7 catches for 52 yards. Quite the significant role in this passing offense. I've been told all season that this Dallas defense was terrible, that it could be had. And for a quarter, it looked like that was the case, with Philly getting up 21-0, and then they failed to score the rest of the game. If you have Barkley in a season-long league, you are certainly playing him. Level of concern, though, for 1 week season here, Mark, about this guy and what he's able to do on a week-to-week basis, where you don't necessarily have to play him every single week. What did we see against Dallas that is, let's separate like what was concerning to us and what's just noise with Barkley, 10 carries for just 22 yards?
I think first off, Quinnen is a beast. That was actually a good signing, or a good trade, I should say. But second, I think that is largely due to the inadequacies or the underperformances, that sounded weird, of Kevin Patullo. Like, his offense has been so static all season. They are doing very little to innovate, and they are effectively being this vanilla offense that is, again, very similar to Taylor over in Cincinnati, that is effectively just saying, like, our guys are just going to go out there and beat your guys. Like, they've had the offensive line to do that in most cases. But you look at, like, Saquon Barkley, for example, Saquon Barkley last year had 17 carries over 20 yards. He has 2 this season. That's absurd. Like, we wouldn't think that. And like, yeah, like you go ask like some of the old folk running backs, and they're like, oh yeah, defenses are always going to want to take out the guy who was the rushing leader last year. Like, that was on national television this last week. And I was like, not really. Like, you act like these guys are not getting like at their peak mentality for every time they go take the field. Like, it doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. Like, anyone who's played sports, like, there are things that like you that will get you hyped. There are matchups where you're like, you go in like rah, 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 but like, these are professionals and they're going out there risking mind, body, and limb every week. I fail to believe that like there's this additional like spirit force that awakens in players. And this just comes down to like an inefficient offensive coordinator who is really like, I'll relate it like this. There's typically a path that teams take throughout the season. Like, we come in, especially with the shortened preseason now, they come in and like for the first 3, 4, 5 games, however long it may be, they're searching for their identity. Like, who do we want to be the rest of the season? How are we going to approach games? The Eagles are still doing that offensively. They're probably the only team that is still searching for their identity. We've seen them try to go pass heavy. They have the single highest pass rate over expectation game of all teams in any game this year. They also have some of the highest rush rate over expectation games. You just see this ebbing and flowing. We're like, oh, fuck, that didn't work. Let's try something else. Oh, that didn't work. Like, so I don't know, man. Like, this is just like, Patullo is not it, man. And all mad respect to him. He's an offensive coordinator in the NFL. And like, who am I, Joe Schmo over here? But like, what I'm seeing on tape and the advanced analytics and digging into this team, they have a long way to go still if they want to get back to the Super Bowl.
So I was scared into like FOMO picks, right, for drafting Saquon Barkley when I had the 3rd pick in a few leagues this year. And sometimes I think I drafted Barkley in like 2 or 3. And it was kind of like, I didn't want to draft him there, Mark, but I had people telling me like, look, there's a lot of reasons that you'd want to draft him there. The 2 reasons I wanted to stay away was, 1, I didn't think he'd stay healthy for the entire season. Number 2, the explosive plays factor, right? He just had so many last year, to an unsustainable rate. And so now the question here for you is, let's say Kellen Moore is still the OC in Philly. Is there a correlation between Barkley explosive plays in 2025 if he was calling the plays as opposed to Kevin Patullo?
I think you would have to say yes. Just the way that Kellen Moore was scheming his offense, and it goes even beyond just like simple X's and O's scheme, his situational tendencies, what he was doing to keep opposing defenses off balance. I mean, you look at like how defenses are handling the Eagles this year, they're just dropping back into umbrella, and they're just like, we're not going to give you man coverage because we know that your run game is easy to diagnose. Here's another example, like through the first half of the season, if like Jalen Hurts was playing either like pistol or shotgun, he was very rarely under center. And it was like, if he's in pistol, it's going to be a run. If he's in shotgun, they're passing. Like, how hard is that for opposing defenses to play against? Yeah. Not very. So like, I would get Hurts under center more. I would like get heavy personnel on the field more. You're like, you don't have a wide receiver 3. Why are we not running increased rates of 12, 13 personnel? Look at what Sean McVay is doing this season. He's leading the league in 13 personnel utilization, almost 30% over the last month. That is like something to combat the meta. He's like, okay, if you guys are just going to see heavy personnel groupings and you're going to load the box, we'll throw out of 13. And it's going to be a higher completion rate, higher efficiency. Those are the things that like Shanahan is doing, that McVay is doing. Kevin Patullo is just standing there with his clipboard in his hands. Like, I don't know, guys.
And what's wild about that too, that 13 personnel that the Rams have been doing, it's been detrimental to Puka Nacua getting out on the field, right? Because they're usually putting Adams out there and leaving Nacua. Now, Nacua is still getting it done, but think about the chutzpah that it takes to say, you know what, I'm going to take my best pass catching option. I'm going to put him on the bench. I'm going to throw out Terrence Ferguson and Colby Parkinson and Tyler Higbee and all that.
That's balls, man.
It is. And I love it. And they're winning. And they got to be one of the favorites in the NFC right now. Mm-hmm. So clearly Sean McVay knows ball. Now, sticking in this Eagles game here, Mark, A.J. Brown, 8 catches on 10 targets. He goes for 110 yards. He gets a touchdown. Very nearly caught a second touchdown. Could not get that second foot in bounds, I think, because he was more concerned on scoring the touchdown rather than getting that second foot in. And this is a game where Brown has been complaining. We found out before this game he had a meeting with the owner, like saying, like, hey, he's not going to go on social media to complain about this. And he was targeted on 23% of his routes. Eagles get up 21-0. But I keep coming back to this. These games that A.J. Brown is really successful in, the Eagles end up losing it. And you know, whether that's a Patullo thing or you know, we put that on Jalen Hurts or Sirianni or whatever, I don't know. But this is another game that A.J. Brown was really good, and then the Eagles lost. So knowing how the Eagles have been buttering their bread all year, do you think this A.J. Brown game this past week against Dallas was more of an aberration? Or do you think that this is something that's going to continue going forward, but the Eagles are going to find a way not to be outscored by 20-plus points for the remainder of the game here, and that Brown can be good and the Eagles can still win?
I think that honestly goes into what we brought up earlier, where it's like this team is still trying to find their identity. We've seen the squeaky wheel narrative with A.J. Brown over the last 2 weeks, but you look at like how he's being used in the offense. These are low upside routes. He has been atrocious at generating separation against man coverage. That's been all Devonta Smith this season. You look at their splits against zone, and it's just like Smith is almost 4 times as efficient as Brown this season against zone coverage. So we saw earlier in the season where Brown was like, I don't know, man, they're just not giving us man coverage. Well, it's like nobody in the league is doing that anymore, save the freaking Giants, which will just continue to attack. But it's just a changing meta. Like Brown's over here complaining about not seeing man coverage. I was like, dude, all but 4 teams in the league are playing 30% man or lower this season. So it's like, it's not the same league anymore. So instead of like, I don't know, man, again, he's a professional athlete. I'm just Joe Schmo over here talking about what he's doing on the field. I have no idea, but like, I don't know, man. I think it's a function of the structure of this offense. You look at his routes were a lot of outbreaking stuff, a lot of low upside generating routes for the past 2 weeks. And it's like, that was okay against the Cowboys because they have all these injuries in the back or in the secondary, and they play a ton of just blanket and off coverage, very little press man stuff, which Brown usually benefits from, because he's so physical and so freakishly fast and twitchy. That's where he's like made his bread and butter all the way back to his time in Tennessee. So, but I don't know, like, to answer your question, like, it just depends on like what Patullo and what Sirianni are brainstorming up from week to week. And I don't think they've nailed down what that is yet.
I want to go to YouTube right now. Tom Smith has a Jonathan Taylor question for us, and he wants to know, Mark, what the Jonathan Taylor owners should expect this week as the Colts take on a really tough Texans defense. I mean, obviously you're playing him in season-long leagues, but you think about DFS and wanting to pay up for him, wanting to play him this week. What do you think? What do you think you're going to end up doing as far as Taylor goes against Houston in week 13?
Yeah, I think the mantra in Indianapolis is pass to score, run to win. And that's kind of how we've seen them handle the entirety of the season. I mean, Daniel Jones has some of the most fantasy points scored in the first half of games this year, and some of the fewest in the second half, because they have established these leads. They have been able to control their game environments, and we kind of saw what that means against a tougher defense against the Chiefs last week. Chiefs obviously coming back and stealing that one away. But the way that this offense is structured is to be leaning forward in the straps, to be kind of taking those shots in the first half, and then they kind of just utilize Jonathan Taylor. And we've seen his poorest games from a fantasy perspective all season have come in games where the Colts have not been able to control it into the second half. So if we think the Texans are able to hang around and keep this game within reason, obviously one of the probably 2 or 3 top defenses in the league, maybe the best this season. If they are able to do that, then yeah, we should expect some muted production here from Jonathan Taylor. But I kind of question, for like schematically, how these teams match up. The Texans' ability to keep this one within reason early, to be honest. You look at what the Colts are doing. They are a ball possession team, a field possession team. They are looking to wear you down over time. And that's why Jonathan Taylor has been so efficient and consistent in the second half of this year. They just wear you down because they are sustaining drives. They're marching the field. They're taking those shots now that Alec Pierce is healthy downfield to Alec Pierce. They have Tyler Warren now, who's an additional piece that is able to stress your interior. His splits against, like, we call it umbrella, but like cover 4 this season have been insane. So he's their primary option. If they're saying, like, if you're going to drop off, we're going to throw it to this Yak God, this new toy we have in the toolbox. They just have so many ways that they can beat you. So I don't know. I would expect to see the Colts kind of control this one. That's just kind of how I'm seeing it.
Colts 3.5-point favorite against the Texans. That game is at Lucas Oil Stadium on Sunday as well. I want to talk about the Raiders here, because they had some personnel changes over the course of the last 24 hours here, Mark. Adam Schefter reporting, this would have been, was it late last night even? I think it might have been late last night, that Chip Kelly was let go as the offensive coordinator for Las Vegas. He was there for just 11 games. The offense averaged 4.6 yards per play, 6.67 yards per pass play, and just 3.5 yards per carry. If you remember, the Raiders signed Chip Kelly to a contract that was paying him $6 million a year, which means he was the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. And they were not satisfied with it. So they have decided to move on, and they're moving on to a familiar face. Greg Olsen is going to be the interim offensive coordinator. He is now in his 3rd stint with the Raiders. He was first their OC in 2013, and then was the OC again in 2018 through 2021 under John Gruden. Now, instead of, getting some of those, I guess, more talented quarterback in Derek Carr, he gets Geno Smith here, who was sacked 10 times in Week 12 against Cleveland. The Raiders are 31st in the league, second worst in the league in points scored, and they are 3rd worst in total yards. Ashton Genty I mean, I don't put it all on him because it seems like he gets hit in the backfield like every single play. 166 carries for 604 yards. He's averaging 3.6 yards per carry. I want to know what you think is going to happen to the Raiders offense, not only against the Chargers in week 13, but what do you think they're going to be doing now with not Chip Kelly calling the plays and coordinating the offense, but one Greg Olsen?
They have to get some way. They have to figure out some way of relieving some of the pressure. And that pressure is induced by one of the worst offensive lines in the league this year. It's not just showing up in the run game. Obviously, it's showing up with, what's his name? What's the quarterback's name? Jesus Christ.
Geno Smith.
Geno Smith. Yeah. It's showing up with his production. He might challenge Cam Ward for the number of sacks taken, which Cam Ward is already on a historic pace. But yeah, I think this is a dysfunctional franchise, to be honest. I think it trickles down from ownership all the way down. The way that they have handled their coaching changes, their coaching searches over the last 5-10 years, maybe, has been abysmal. They are taking shots in free agency when they shouldn't be. They are burning draft picks when they shouldn't be. They're making some questionable personnel decisions. And it's just like they are trying to save a sinking ship. And it seems like for the better part of the last 5 years. And it's just like Mark Davis is just going down with the ship, man. This is they if they want to be competitive, they have to start from the front and move backward. And what I mean by that is both sides of the ball. Like they have a solid, obviously Max Crosby, they have a few solid pieces up front on the defensive side of the ball. They went from like 4 or 5 years ago, like back to the Josh Jacobs years, early career, where they had a top offensive line. We saw how they were able to kind of sustain drives. They were able to just keep continuous pressure on defenses, make them react to them, as opposed to now where it's like they are such a reactive offense because their offensive line is so bad. So they're going to have to do a lot to get the ball out quick. I would utilize, I would get Michael Mayer on the field. I would run I would try and shoot for like 60, 70%, 12 personnel, particularly after dealing Jacoby Myers. Get Brock Bowers on the field with Michael Mayer. Get them both chipping, get them both blocking, because they're both good in all phases of tight end play. A 2nd-round pick and then obviously a 1st-round pick in back-to-back seasons. So get them on the field together. Get from falling behind the chains, because you place Geno Smith in long down and distance situations behind this offensive line, and we're seeing what happens. So get those quick hits for 5-6 yards on 1st down. Mix up your situational play calling tendencies. Stop being so like an open book with how you're calling plays, and stop falling behind the sticks. That's what they need to do. I have no idea what to expect here, to be honest.
I think that my lazy analysis here, Greg Olsen takes over. Oh, we're going to see a lot more Ashton Genty, right? We're going to see a lot more of the ground game. You make a good case for Bowers and Mayer to be out there, because if you put both of them out there, could be a run play, could be a pass play. It's not easy for the defense to diagnose, right? And you really don't have any threats on the perimeter. I think that Jack Besh is going to be a good NFL player, but he's not there yet. And obviously Trey Tucker can only do so much on the outside as well. So I think you're right. And we'll see what happens with Olsen taking over. It's tough when you don't have a good offensive line. It's really tough to get anything going. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, the biggest challenge facing Olsen and the Raiders offense here going forward. It's funny because, I think the Raiders, with the investment in Brock Bowers, with the investment in Ashton Genty, we're a young and up and coming team. We're going to build this from the ground up. And then you hire you get Geno Smith. You hire Pete Carroll, 2 guys that to me represent, we're going to try to win right now. And their GM, John Spytek, who I think is a pretty smart guy, worked in Tampa for all those years. And when they were winning Super Bowls with Brady and so on and so forth, I thought he was a pretty smart guy. And then he gets out to Las Vegas, and there's some questionable decisions there. Sometimes I wonder if the owner is putting his thumbprint on that.
Bingo.
And it's not stuff that SpyTech wants to do, but it is what it is. Right now, it's not great for Las Vegas. Another team that it's not great for right now, we kind of knew this going in once Derek Carr retired before the start of the season, was the New Orleans Saints. And to add injury to insult, Alvin Kamara has suffered an MCL sprain against the Falcons this past week. Nick Underhill from NewOrleans.football reporting this. Kamara avoided a major injury, but his recovery timeline, according to Underhill's report, could take a little time. If you are planning on running Kamara out there against the Dolphins in week 13, I would have a plan B in case. So we have to talk about the MCL sprains that he has dealt with in the past. You go back 4 years ago, he had one. You go back 6 years ago, Kamara had another one as well. And both of these times he missed multiple games. Enter Devin Neal. Let's talk about the Kamara aspect of this here first. Very possible that we I shouldn't say very possible. I think there's a non-zero chance that we've seen the last of Alvin Kamara in the NFL after this. I think he does come back at some point, Mark. I just don't know when. And in the meantime, you have Devin Neal, who I don't think is a world beater. I don't think he's a special talent, but he did put up decent numbers this past week after Kamara went down. And when you look at this Dolphins defense, which has been very awful to very awesome, depending upon the week, maybe there's something here with Devin Neal. Certainly, we probably will not see anything from Alvin Kamara, at least in week 13, and perhaps maybe week 14 and beyond as well.
Yeah, I question the upside from a fantasy perspective on Devin Neal. First off, the Dolphins are, I won't say peaking, but they are definitely improving. I mean, you look at their advanced metrics against the run over the second half of the first half of the season. That sounds weird, but like over the past 5-6 weeks, they've been much better against the run. And now also consider what we saw from the Saints last week after Alvin Kamara departed. It was actually Taysom Hill that led the team in carries. Right. So like, I don't know, man, that dude just will not die, will not go away. Just this, I call him like the perennial troll. He's just always there to, you think you have this team pegged and it's like, oh, Taysom, oh, damn it. But yeah, I don't know, with a full week of, and that's obviously very reactive, right? Like it's different when a player gets injured during the game where you have to react. You have to be like, oh, well, we didn't plan for this. So what are we going to do now? The Saints, as they currently stand, are not the best suited to be reacting to situations like that, very clearly. So it might look a little different with a full week of preparation. We might see Devin Neal kind of be like a leaned on member of this backfield. But what I do like about his game is he is very capable as a pass catcher out of the backfield. We know with this rookie quarterback, with Tyler Shuck coming in, we know with Kellen Moore at the helm, like this offense can feed significant targets to the running back position. So I would say he's a low ceiling, moderate floor play in a PPR setting this week. I wouldn't expect him to step into, I'm just banking on 25 fantasy points here, but I think he can be serviceable. I've added Devin Neal in FFPC about 4 or 5 weeks ago when it kind of looked like he was returning from injury to be that backup guy to Kamara, knowing that we look at Kamara really the past 4 years, right? The second half of his seasons over the past 4 years have looked far different than they have in the first half, where his body just kind of wears down and now obviously picks up the injury. So I don't know. I think Neal can be serviceable with the asterisk here of like, I don't know what Taysom's going to do this week.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing that Taysom Hill is a tight end in the FFPC, is he worth a pickup at all?
I think so. I think he has to be, right. We've seen, and it's a little different the way that Taysom is being utilized with Kellen Moore than he was, in the previous 3 seasons with the previous regime. He's not in a route at similar rates to where he was, and that could be something to do with his injury. It could be just a change in the coaching staff, but I don't really know looking at tape, but he's being utilized more purely as a runner, and then he'll throw the occasional pass than he is like in a route. So the tight end premium aspect of that probably doesn't mean as much as it would have in previous years. But we've also seen this guy take like 7 carries for 50 yards and 3 scores. So I don't know. There is that outcome here as well.
I think that, and from a dynasty standpoint, I don't know if Kamara is back next year, but I do know Kendra Miller will be back next year. And there's also a non-zero chance that the Saints utilize a day 2 pick on a running back to even gum up the works even more. So I don't know how much we're going to learn about the Saints backfield going forward for the remainder of the season, even if Alvin Kamara is out for multiple weeks here too. Something we'll be keeping an eye on. We will be keeping an eye on the Monday Night Football game, which is going to be starting here shortly in about 24 minutes or so. So when we come back, let's preview that game, Mark. Let's talk about Tyrone McMillan. Let's talk about Jalen Coker. Let's get into the Jawan Jennings versus Ricky Pearsall argument here too. And we haven't talked about that Giants-Lions game, which was insane. A lot of fantasy stuff to unpack there. So we'll talk about that as well. He is Mark Garcia at HiLoFF on X from One Week Season, oneweekseason.com, and of course, Rotoworld Fantasy Football. I'm Eric Balkman. You're watching a special Monday edition of FFPC Insider Access live on the Better Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
Folks, let me talk to you about my favorite weekly platform to play on. We all play Dynasty and we all play Redraft, but we got to find some place to play weekly. And the FFPC Weekly Challenge is my favorite. If you're like me and you're tired of the constraints of salary caps or having to do a draft to make a team, or even having to play against these people that are stacking up the same team, stacking up certain games, and you feel like you have to put in a million entries or have to have those certain stacks to win, then come play over at FFPC. Really, the only main rule that you have to deal with is that you cannot select multiple players from the same team. I'm going out and I'm trying to find the best of the best of the best players and put them into a lineup. And that's what you can do over at my FFPC. You can go out and you can take the number 1 running back in Bijan Robinson, and you can also have Saquon Barkley. As long as they're not in the same team, you can put them all into a lineup, right? And there's 4 flexes for this, so there's a lot of flexibility. There's 2 different contests, one that has kickers and defenses, one that's just position players. Then you also have a bunch of different price points you can play at: $35, $100, or $200 buy-in. And you're going out and you're just picking the absolute chalk plays, maybe sneaking in a little bit of a sleeper there, somebody that you think can really blow up that week. And that's how it works. It's one of the best contests out there for the sharpest gamers. And when you win on the FFPC, people take notice. That is where the best high-stakes games are. That's where the best experts play. And that's where I play, because I want to be an FFPC champion and put that title on me, put the money in my pocket, and put that in my bio. FFPC champion. And the FFPC weekly contest is the best place to play during the season.
The FFPC Weekly Challenge, as Andrew Cooper from Fantasy Alarm just pointed out, live for Week 13 on myffpc.com. No draft, no salary cap. You're just picking 10 or 12 players, depending upon if you want to play with kickers or defenses at all. Win up to $2,500, 10, 30, and 100 team contest. Only 1 player per NFL team. So if you want Jalen Coker, you can't have Rico Dowdle. If you want George Kittle, you cannot have Brian Robinson. Not that you want to do that, but you could. myffpc.com is where to go, myffpc.com. We are here tonight on a special Monday edition. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. We will not be broadcasting a show or streaming a show on Thursday, I should say. So we're doing it tonight with Mark Garcia from One Week Season and Rotoworld at HiLoFF on the X. We have Monday Night Football to get into with the kickoff slated for about 20 minutes away. From a non-daily standpoint, from just a talent evaluation standpoint, I got to be honest with you, Mark, I've gone back and forth on Bryce Young. I have made excuses for this guy. I have also just absolutely given up on him after certain throws I've seen him make over the last couple of years. Tyrone McMillan is now a bona fide number 1 wide receiver, 6th in the NFL in receiving yardage right now. Dowdle is actually crushing it from the running game, who is down, running behind an offensive line that's been down anywhere between 2 and 4 starters throughout the season. And Young has shown flashes once again. But I still have not answered my own question, and I'm going to ask you it. Is Bryce Young good?
He ain't it, man. He's not good.
So backing that point up, that you are out on Bryce Young. What is he doing? Is this year 3? This is year 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What is he doing or not doing that he should or should not be doing that has helped you make up your mind on Young?
He's not growing. Really, we haven't seen anything out of like the 6-week spurt to end last season where we could point to something that he's like improving on. He's still making poor decisions, slow to process, and I think he's really struggling with one of the changing metas in the league this year is like defense is showing one thing pre-snap and then backing out or into something else. That comes through blitzes, that comes through switching 4-3 to 3-4 pre-snap, that comes through coverages. And he has really struggled to diagnose those changes pre to post snap and kind of marry, or I guess compare what he's seeing pre-snap to what is actually happening 3 seconds into the play. And that takes a lot of processing. And I think I forget who said it, but somebody said like quarterback is a mental position. And if you don't have like the mental aspect of the position down, like that can improve, but you have to be, I think it was Brady, probably something he said. But it's like you have to be able to process. That quick processing time to me is so much more important than having a cannon for an arm. Michael Penix. Some of these quarterbacks, like that's what Josh Allen, for example, improved on, going from season 2 to season 3. That's what made him who he is today. That's what Anthony Richardson has not done. Like they tried, but that's kind of what I'm seeing from Bryce Young is that processing. It's not there. I don't know if it's he can't see over the line or if it's legit he's just not there mentally yet. That's a joke. But like it's just not there. And so what are they doing now? Like we're just seeing Canales. This team ranks first in the league in rush rate, over expectation since the midpoint in the season. So they're just saying like, all right, man, like we're going to make this easy. We're going to make it so that the throws you do have to make, they should be easier because we're forcing teams to adjust to go heavy because we're running it effectively. We're making that he's staying ahead of that chess match is what Canales is doing well right now. So like, I don't believe in Bryce Young. I was not a believer in that, how he ended the season last year. There was a lot of like fluky stuff going on for me. I don't think he's that. I don't think Canales can give up on him yet in the same vein. But he's just not there yet for me.
I think a lot of the stuff you're talking about could actually be applied for Minnesota with JJ McCarthy as well.
Oh yeah.
We have seen over the course of the last several weeks, Kevin O'Connell kind of taking the ball out of McCarthy's hands and wanting to run it as much as he could with Jones and Mason. And again, when they have to pass it, making those easy passes. Now, the problem with that yesterday against Green Bay, when you get down multiple scores and you have that pass rush that doesn't have to worry about Mason and Jones, they can just pin their ears back. McCarthy looked absolutely lost yesterday. And I don't put that all on him because this is his 6th start ever. And I remember everybody frying Jordan Love. And he's come around too, which, I mean, I don't want to get into the whole Jordan Love discussion. I want to turn it into that because we'd easily do a half hour, 40 minutes on Jordan Love. And is he good and how good can he be, especially for fantasy under Matt LaFleur. But I think the McCarthy thing is they're trying to protect him right now. But if you get 2 scores down, that's where problems come in because McCarthy's not ready to win you games. And Bryce Young, I think for the most part, we've seen him do some crazy comebacks. I think for the most part, I'm with you. He's not going to win you a whole lot of games. It's on Rico Dowdle. It's on this ground game. And that's going to lead into my next question here. I just looked it up, Mark. In FFPC main event leagues that went off just before the start of the season, Rico Dowdle went off the board at running back 60 at the 14-10. This is behind guys like DJ Giddens, Will Shipley, Najee Harris, Tyler Algier, Ray Davis, Jaden Blue, Dylan Sampson. What did we miss on with Dowdle? Was it the Hubbard contract? Why were we not in a league that, we talk about trying to win $1 million in the main event or the big gorilla. Sometimes it takes these miracle 1 week, one injury away type players to make your season. Well, anybody that took Rico Dowdle at the 14-15 turn is certainly battling for playoff positioning right now, and it's turned out very well for them. How did we as high stakes players let this guy slip so far, and how can we prevent making this mistake again in future drafts?
There's a lot to unpack there, I think. The uncertainty of the backfield, how the backfield usage was going to break out, it was very clearly pointing to Chuba Hubbard for the Panthers specifically. There are other situations that I will liken to that situation this preseason that I personally was buying into a little bit more than the Panthers, the primary being Jacksonville. I wanted to leave every draft I drafted this offseason, whether it be best ball, whether it be FFPC, with a member of the Jacksonville backfield. I was prioritizing Travis Etienne and Bashal Tutin, but I was also taking shots on Tank Bigsby.
Yep.
It didn't matter. Like I knew there was directional certainty. That's a fancy term of saying like this backfield is likely to be valuable to us. I mean, they bring in Liam Cohen. We saw what he's done Tampa last year. Not trying to pretend that like I know who's going to emerge between Travis Etienne, and we've seen ebbing and flowing in that backfield this year. Between Etienne and Bashal Tutin. Like 2 weeks ago, it looked like Tutin was taking over a little bit more of the work there. And then last week, I got shoved in my face with Travis Etienne back as the primary dude. Bring that back to Carolina. What I think we missed was that this backfield was going to be as valuable as it was. Now, I wrote off with all the changes for the Jags. I was expecting a Trevor Lawrence breakout. Finally, it's not happening. So if not now, when, dude? I don't know. But I thought that they would be, top 10 scoring. I thought that the backfield would be much more valuable. When in reality, like Dave Canales has shown that he can support an elite backfield. So I think that's what we missed is like the situation. Diagnosing, is it an important situation for fantasy to us? If yes, like follow this path, which we should probably have interest in all members. We don't know if injuries are going to happen. We don't know if Chuba Hubbard just sucks at football. We don't know if we just don't know with all the variance that is present in this game. One, the game we're playing, and two, the game that is being played on the field. Like there's just so much that can happen. So I think that's what we missed, to answer your question succinctly, is simply identifying that backfield would probably be a fantasy relevant backfield.
And you're kind of right about Jacksonville, right? It's just a matter of like just getting pieces on it. And obviously if you drafted Dowdle, you're loving life here at that 14-15 turn. I would make the case, and I guess you've made a pretty strong case against it, of why we let this Carolina backfield slip as far as Hubbard and Dowdle goes, but something that we'll be taking a look at for drafts in 2026, refining the process and trying to make sure that this kind of thing does not happen again. They're warming up on Monday Night Football right now. Bryce Young leading his Panthers out on the field. Good thing he's in front, because if he was behind some of those linemen, I'd never see him. The player that he's going to be throwing to, hopefully, for those people who are hoping like me for a big Tetaroa McMillan night, is the rookie receiver out of Arizona. How good of a play do you think McMillan is in this game against the Niners tonight? A Niners defense that we'll get into a little bit, but it's definitely not the same defense that started off the season, because they've had so many injuries there. If you look at the spread and the way that Vegas expects this game to go tonight, you're looking at the Panthers with a 7.5 point edge here, as in a game that has a 49.5 point total. So to me, this is like this has some garbage time written on it, with Bryce Young tossing it to McMillan to try to keep up and try to make a game of this in the second half. I like McMillan tonight, but you let me know how his matchup stacks up, not only against the secondary, but everybody that is going to be, trying to defend McMillan for the Niners tonight.
Yeah, and I think that's the question. Now we have Bethune who's out, so the interior of this defense has been gutted. Really, we've seen them struggle against tight ends because of it. I mean, this has always been a strong defense against tight ends because structurally speaking, they were able to operate and function inside out. They were able to kind of push guys to the perimeter. They're just not able to do that anymore with all the injuries that they've dealt with. So it's a plus matchup on paper for Tet, and I would add Jalen Coker to that list as well. I'm Coker over Leggett for life. I think he is the much more talented dude. Just looking at his film, looking at what he's been able to do on such limited snaps, I'd expect that to continue to grow. They obviously like him. I think he was a big part of what they wanted to do this season, and then obviously the injury that halts his season before it started. But yeah, I think this is a good spot for Tet. This is a good spot for Dowdle. This is a good spot for their tight end room. That's just like a 2, 3, 4 man rotation, depending on which way the wind is blowing. But this is a good spot. I think I don't often agree with, or I don't often bet like game lines and game totals and stuff. I think it's just Vegas is the one thing that they are probably best at, as compared to like props or stuff like that, is setting these lines. They have a much longer history, or like props are so much newer. So I think they got this one right. I would expect some offensive production from both sides here. And what I'm really looking at from a matchup perspective is like what Canales can do to keep the 49ers defense on their toes, or off their toes, basically on their heels. Can he continue to churn out like 5-6 yard gains on early downs? He's been really, really good at that over this last 6 game stretch. Can he continue that tonight?
Tom Smith brings this up on YouTube, and I think it's worth bringing up as well. He writes, didn't Jacoby Brissett just throw 88 times and 160 or 675 yards last week against the Niners? Which is a good point. But yeah. I do think that the Panthers win by keeping Purdy and such off the field and having a big night from Dowdle. So, yeah, maybe you can expose them through the air, but I think like you expose them through the air, that might be a good way to pile up a bunch of points and yardage, but not necessarily win the game, Mark.
Yeah, and it comes down to like we have this fallacy as fantasy players. Like we know best and we know how a team should attack. And a lot of times that doesn't align with what a team has shown us, who their identity is. And we've very clearly seen Dave Canales shift halfway through the season so far, where they were going out, they're like, okay, well, we have to be forward leaning. We're going to attack aggressively to start the game. And that shifted now. And they're just like, we're going to pound the ball and we're going to make easy layup stuff beyond that for Bryce Young to handle. So like, while we just saw the Cardinals do what they did to the 49ers, that's probably not how Canales is coming into this game from a game planning mentality. And that's why I spend so much time like over at 1 Week Season on a weekly basis, like breaking down these games from the starting point of how do we expect these teams to behave? Because that's more important. I'll relay it like this, or I'll illustrate it like this. There's really 3 parts of an NFL game. There's the game planning portion, which depending on how things go, lasts a quarter and a half. That's where the teams come in, they execute the game plan that they put together in the week of practice coming up. The coaches, all the meetings, they come together, meeting of the minds. This is how we're going to attack our opponent. Then they get punched in the mouth. And it's like, now we're into reaction phase where we have to, all bets are off. We have to like react to what's working, what's not working. We make our adjustments. We went 3 and out on our first 2 drives. Well, we got to do something different, right? So they're making those adjustments. That's like from 1.5 quarters to like sometimes 2.5 quarters to the end of the 3rd quarter sometimes. And then there's what I call, and part of my French, the oh shit phase, which is like all of that doesn't matter now. We have to go out and win this game in any way we can. Typical NFL game, that's like the 4th quarter or half of the 4th quarter. What I look for in DFS is like, is there something in this spot that can get these teams into oh shit phase earlier? Sometimes the 49ers return the opening kickoff to the 1-yard line and Christian McCaffrey rushes in the first play from scrimmage for a touchdown. Sometimes The Cincinnati Bengals will return the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Like those, that is the ignition source of that game. So like the teams are already in like, oh, well, fuck, like everything's off. Like we're in no shit phase already. We have to go out and win this game. And now what? So it all starts though with that game plan, because teams are not going to return the opening kickoff for a touchdown at a high rate, or, you know, Chris McCaffrey isn't going to score from the 1 in every game. Those are very rare instances. So it starts with that game plan. And I think us playing fantasy and DFS in particular, we also have to start and put ourselves like in the coach's shoes. How are they likeliest to game plan for this spot? Because that's where these games start from. So to just say like, well, the Cardinals, you know, just set the record for most completions in a game against this defense, we're obviously going to see Bryce Young do the same. I don't think that's accurate. It depends on like what Dave Canales wants. And like, okay, can the 49ers return the opening kickoff for a touchdown? Like that could happen. I don't know. It's not likely. The likeliest path for this game is we're probably going to see a slower start. These teams are going to wear each other down. They're going to open things up. Yeah, Kev, that's a solid comment.
Yeah, Kev Wheeler, just for those of you listening on the audio version, Kev Wheeler just posted on here. My life has been in the I'll refrain. My life has been in the OS phase for the past decade.
Oh yeah, should I not say that? I'm sorry, I didn't ask.
It doesn't matter at this point. I mean, I never know.
That egg is cracked already.
I always stay away. Yeah, and like I've heard that if you wait long enough, and I'm talking specifically about YouTube, I've heard if you wait long enough, it literally doesn't matter. But I've also
am I getting you demonetized? Great.
No, I would not worry about that. I would not worry about that. But it's
Classic.
still fun. It's still
my
fun.
Sailor mouth. I'm sorry.
All right. I want to talk about just real quick before we move on to the Niners. We got kickoff in a couple minutes here. Jalen Coker versus Xavier Legette. It was last year, Mark, that Legette was the first-round pick. Coker was an undrafted free agent signing with Carolina. And yet you have flipped. I don't want to say flipped because maybe you were just not willing to make the investment on Legette from the get-go, and it was all about Coker with that bargain basement price. But yet you're saying, like, right now, like, it's Coker and over Legette, and it's not close.
Yeah, and that's just for what they are being asked to do on the field. That's not even like me just watching tape. That's just look at the structure of their routes. How are they being utilized? That tells me that the coaches think that Coker is the better player. Like, look at what Coker is being. He has a full route tree when he's on the field. He's not running routes at the same rate that Xavier Legette is, because Xavier Legette is the bigger body guy. He is a former first-round pick. They are trying to get him, develop him, obviously. But like, when I just am being shown the film and looking at the structure of the players' routes, like that just tells me what the team thinks about him. Yeah. So I'm just kind of siding with the team here and saying like, well, they're trusting Coker to go out and do more, contribute more from a route layering perspective, from a manipulating an opposing defense perspective, that I'll just side with that.
Shifting over to the Niners here, Brock Purdy came back last week, looked pretty good. I've heard people, smart people way smarter than me, calling him a potential league winner this year. Your thoughts on Brock Purdy as we come down the stretch? I have not looked at the Niners schedule, which I probably should have. But I have not looked at their schedule. But your thoughts on what Purdy can do, given the state of the Niners defense right now, where they might have to outscore some teams down the stretch, and knowing that they have a healthy Kittle. Pearsall is now healthy. They still have Juwan Jennings. I don't know about Ayuk, but McCaffrey's been healthy. We'll get into him in a little bit. But your thoughts on Purdy down the stretch here of how good he is going to be?
First off, shouts to Mac Jones for just holding it down, dude, while he was gone. Dude, that was a professional, man. And even the way he was handling the media, he was like, they were asking him like, do you have a claim to be the starter? He's like, that's not why I'm here, guys. Like, I'm here to go out, do what's best for the team, win games if my starter, Brock Purdy's the starter, win games for my team if Purdy's out. So props to him. He's probably going to get a bag this offseason from somewhere. He's maybe Minnesota will
I was just going to say Mac Minnesota.
Yeah, no joke. But no, I think This team is getting healthy at the right time. We look at what they were able to do without Brock Purdy on the field. And it wasn't just him. Like Brandon Ayuk hasn't played this season. They played a large swath of the early portion of the season, obviously with George Kittle on the sidelines. They've had injuries to Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, like the list goes on. But when I look at what this team has done structurally over the last 3 games, I believe, whenever Kittle came back, and it was the first time all season outside of 10 snaps that they had both Kittle and Juszczyk on the field together. This is like, yes, we're back to the Shanahan football, man. The team has looked so much better. And now, like, inject Brock Purdy, who has the mentals we talked about that some of these guys are lacking. Like Brock Purdy, there's a reason why Mr. Irrelevant like has exploded his NFL career like he has. He's got those mentals. He is smart. He has good processing time. He has an adequate enough arm strength to deliver the football where it needs to be. But he's going to be around the league a long time, I think. So I think this team is in good hands. I think they're going to have a fantastic last stretch of the season here. And I'm excited about all the skill position players.
The lead skill position guy, with apologies to George Kittle on this team, has been Christian McCaffrey. And as a guy who invested in Christian McCaffrey in the mid to late first round in several leagues this year, even I have been pleasantly surprised that this dude is not only staying on the field, but having some of the heaviest workloads of his career and still staying on the field. And McCaffrey has never been as old as he is right now. Mark, how is he doing this? When you sit down and you're doing projections and you're scheming your way through these games before they go off, how much do you look at it from the standpoint of like, well, McCaffrey can't keep getting this volume. They want to keep him healthy. He can't keep being this healthy with this volume. Something's got to give. And yet we're into week 12 here and nothing's given so far.
I think it was out of necessity. I don't think they came into the season and were like, yo, CMC, bro, mad respect. You're going to go out and see 30 touches a game. Like, I don't think they wanted that. We just talked about all the injuries this team has dealt with. It's out of necessity, in my opinion. Now with a healthy pass catching core with Brock Purdy back, I think we're going to see the biggest hit come in the aerial attack. Mm-hmm. He's probably not going to see 11, 12, 15 targets like he was early in the season. And that's important, I think, because this San Francisco 49ers team is dead last in yards per carry this year. We didn't expect that either this season, looking at a Kyle Shanahan offense. So he's still going to see like his 5, 6, 7, like schemed usage through the air targets. I don't think he's going to see that 10, 11, 12, 15 that he was earlier in the season. So that's obviously going to affect both his floor and ceiling in his range of outcomes moving forward.
They have kicked off in Santa Clara, specifically the Panthers have kicked off to the Niners. It is a 1st and 10 where they give it to Christian McCaffrey 3 yards up the gut right away. And then on 2nd down, it is a Brock Purdy pass to Christian McCaffrey in the flat, of which he is promptly tackled for a 3-yard loss. So we are
3rd down, another pass to McCaffrey. So I'm just eating my words over here.
There you go. Yeah. So third and 10, and McCaffrey, 11-yard catch for a 1st down as the Niners matriculate the ball downfield. They have it at their own 39-yard line, 13:34 to go in the first quarter. We have not seen any passes to Jawan Jennings or one Ricky Pearsall yet tonight. Where do you stand on these guys tonight against Carolina and sort of going forward? Is it just a matter of time before Pearsall becomes the number one, assuming Ayuk stays out the rest of the season over Jennings? Or do you think Jennings is the guy that you want to target in your weekly plays over Ricky Pearsall?
So there's a lot of moving pieces here. We just got done talking about all the injuries they've had. These two, specifically Jennings and Pearsall, have played very little snaps together on the field. But the ones that they have, Jawan Jennings has still been kind of the alpha guy in this offense. So when you look at like structurally speaking, there's a reason to me that the 49ers are like, Brandon Ayuk, yo, dude, you missed some meetings. Your 26 guarantees are void. Mm-hmm. And that reason is Pearsall, because he's being utilized structurally speaking in a similar way to how Ayuk was. And I think what is even allowing them to take that stance even further is his kind of rounding into form in all aspects of his game, because we know Kyle Shanahan offense Sean McVay offense, they need players who are structurally sound in all phases of their games. They need blocking, they need smarts, they need to be able to settle down into zone. If they, again, in the meta of the league today, if they're shown man and get switched to zone, they want guys who are smart enough to diagnose that as well and settle down in those gaps. So Pearsall's game has grown a lot. From the tail end of his shortened rookie season last year, as he makes a catch right now. But Jawan Jennings, I think, is still the alpha in this offense. And it kind of, it's hard to draw a corollary to like Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, because like you don't have a player, there's really no other player in the league that is Deebo Samuel.
Right.
And like Ayuk is a little bit easier to draw a direct corollary to Ricky Pearsall. But so like the offense isn't exactly the same, but all that to say, like Jennings is the guy who to me is going to go out there and earn targets at a higher rate. And I expect Pearsall to be more of this like safety manipulator, downfield option. He doesn't necessarily have the full route tree down. That's what I'm looking to see take another step. Whereas Jawan Jennings kind of has the full route tree. He's a capable blocker, or I would say elite blocker.
Yeah.
And he has kind of a more well-rounded game. So to me, it's still Jennings. All that to say, like Pearsall has played all of 8, 9, how many freaking games has he played over the last 2 seasons? So he very clearly has a lot of room to grow with this team now. So even more with Ayuk looking like he is on the outs.
After that McCaffrey catch for 11 yards, it was a McCaffrey carry for 3 yards, and then another McCaffrey catch for 4 yards. You mentioned finally Ricky Pearsall gets into the action. He gets a 6-yard catch for a first down. Brian Robinson misses, not that he missed it. Purdy kind of overshot him on that. And then is a Brian Robinson carry for 7 yards. The Niners now into Carolina territory. However, they are facing a 3rd and 3 from the Panthers 41. The Niners defense, I alluded to this earlier, Mark. When you consider how battered they are this season, how beat up they are, this is not the same team that started the year where we were actually looking at the Niners defense as a potential every week play in certain fantasy leagues. How good of a play are they tonight against Bryce Young, Tyrone McMillan, Rico Dowdle? What do you think about as far as a defense matchup would go tonight? Is this in San Francisco's favor, being 7.5-point favorites at home against Carolina?
I mean, yes, like just fundamentally speaking, yes, it's in their favor. I don't know if that means anything from a fantasy perspective, to be completely honest, because they have been very poor at generating pressure. How do you rattle Bryce Young? You put him under pressure. And based on our previous discussion of like what Dave Canales is trying to do, he's trying to specifically keep Bryce Young from being under pressure. So that's the key matchup, I think, in this game is like, how can the second level and the back end hold up? Because I'd expect Bryce Young to have some time when he does drop back.
That is our preview of the game tonight. They are off and running. We're under the 10-minute mark now at Santa Clara as the Niners are marching down the field. It was a 6-yard carry by Christian McCaffrey on 3rd and 3 to get him a first down. Luke Farrell, of course, the tight end we all knew that would be the first tight end to catch a pass for the Niners tonight. He gets one for 3 yards, followed by another Christian McCaffrey 8-yard run. The Niners are knocking on the door of the red zone now. 1st and 10 for San Francisco, ball on the Carolina 24. You know, we did not get a chance in that first segment to talk about that Giants-Lions game. Some stuff to unpack here I want your opinion on. Theo Johnson in this game, he gets 5 targets, catches 3 of them for 77 yards. This is a player that I mean, he's I think was it Brett Whitefield from Fantasy Point said he's the king of almost. Like he almost gets a 20-yard catch. He almost gets a 35-yard catch. He almost gets an 18-yard catch. And I think the fact that he's being utilized so heavily, not only with Jameis Winston, but Jackson Dart, has me thinking that this is a viable cog, not only for the remainder of the season, but a guy that they're going to be counting on in the future. Your thoughts on Theo Johnson here going forward? I feel like in tight end premium leagues, this is a guy you have to give a long, hard look at before you bench him. I think he's very startable right now, Mark.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. And I think it goes down to just all the pieces that this offense is missing, right? Then they go through the head coach change. Got Kafka auditioning for, moving forward, auditioning there for Joe Shane. But honestly, like Joe Shane gets a lot of bad rap in the football community from us cashies. I think he's done a pretty good job with this team. We can question some of his choices, like probably 2 off seasons ago. The past 2 off seasons have been pretty remarkable for Shane here. And I would all of that to say, like, this Giants team probably is in position to be the front runner to land whatever head coach they want this offseason. Like if I were a head coach candidate, I would say, like, look at the defensive line. If they invest now in the offensive line a little bit more, we saw a little bit of that this year. They're kind of rebuilding right. And they've hit on some key players over the last 2 off seasons. They hit on Malik Neighbors. They hit on Cam Scattaboo. They hit on Jackson Dart. And those 3 make up a core that I would be extremely excited to go coach for the next 3 to 5 seasons. So all of that to say, like, I think, investing is, specifically speaking to Dynasty, like investing in this Giants team probably is a plus EV endeavor.
If they get a run stuffer, and you're right, they got to be able to protect Jackson Dart. They got to protect Dart against himself too, where he's just, way too many times this guy been in concussion protocol.
He probably had 2, let's be honest.
I think you're right too, and might have been part of the reason that Daboll was fired was because he was just putting him in harm's way too much. The Niners have scored here tonight after it was I left you with the McCaffrey 8-yard run. He had another 8-yard run followed by a Brian Robinson carry for 4 yards, a stuff of Christian McCaffrey, 1st and 10 at the 12. And then Brock Purdy hits Juwan Jennings just inside the 5-yard line. Looks like he's bottled up by the Carolina defense there.
Dude.
He squirts out, scores a touchdown. It was as they call it, a grown-ass man.
That was a grown man, dude.
Yeah. He gets the touchdown there from Brock Purdy. 3. It is a 12-yard catch. The Matt Gay extra point is good. Carolina will take the field with 6:17 to go in the first quarter, down 7-0 after a 15-play, 72 drive that took up 8 minutes and 43 seconds for the Niners. So there you go. We're off and running here on Monday Night Football. Getting back to the Giants game, you mentioned Scattaboo, one of the guys that has taken over in his stead since Scattaboo is on IR, has been Tyrone Tracy. He gets the ball 20 times, 62 yards rushing, and then he also catches 3 balls here for 68 yards. Now, before we get too excited about this, 130 total yards from Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary also touched the ball 14 times, and he was working in the red zone quite a bit as well. The good part about Tracy versus Singletary, if you have Tracy, 29 routes for Tracy, just 5 for Devin Singletary. He never saw a target, obviously. 139 total yards last week for Tracy, 130 this week. Is there, despite the usage, do you feel like there is sort of like a widening of the gap between Tracy and Singletary, where we don't have to sit and scratch our heads all day on Saturday and all morning on Sunday to try to figure out which one of these Giants running backs we're going to deploy? Is it easier to say, yes, Singletary is a strong play, the Giants are Tracy is a strong play, the Giants like Tyrone Tracy? How warm and fuzzy are you feeling about deploying Tyrone Tracy in lineups?
Yeah, I think that's a 2-part answer for a 2-part question. I think this team has shown that Tracy is their lead back. Over the previous 2 weeks, you mentioned what we've seen. That comes with a caveat, though, that, like, as you mentioned, Singletary is the preferred, not even red zone guy, but green zone, like inside the 10-yard line. Devin Singletary, like we saw 2 weeks ago, Tracy carries the ball to the 2 and then he's immediately subbed off and Devin Singletary comes in. So that is obviously a big hit to Tracy's potential upside here. Obviously, we need that touchdown expectancy to carry his ceiling. That said, like, I think Tracy is a fine floor play. As we're continuing through bye weeks, we have very important week 14 buys coming up. I think, when are the Giants on bye? They already have their bye? I don't even know.
I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, I was like, I hope they're not week 14. I can't remember.
No, it is week 14.
Yeah, okay. I thought so.
Yeah.
Oh, that there scratches that because I don't think are there buys in week 13 this year? I don't think there are.
No. And
Yeah.
I think that's because of Thanksgiving. I mean, like, I'm just guessing. I think they don't want to have anybody on bye and Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just going to say he's a valid bye week fill-in, but the only bye remaining is the one he's on, so that doesn't really that doesn't really hold water. But like I think he's a fine like plug and play 12 to 15 point expectancy. His range of outcomes is not going to be very wide, which means he does not carry a high weekly ceiling because he's going to have to score from outside the red zone, it looks like, and that's pretty hard to do as a running back. So you need a flex like Tracy is viable, I think.
You know, and by the way, the Panthers are taking over from their own 35-yard line after a Matt Gay touchback here. Wan'Dale Robinson had well over 100 yards receiving in the first quarter this past week. He ends up with 14 targets, catches 9 of them for 156 yards. He obviously also gets into the end zone as well. It was pretty crazy. I mean, it was a flea flicker, granted, kind of a trick play that got him to score here. But he had 200 yard receiving games in his NFL career, and he had a 100-yard quarter against the Detroit Lions. I like the Lions defense. I thought that they're much better, much healthier at this point this year than they were last year. And yet they get torched by Jameis Winston. And I know there's a Jameis Winston conversation going on in our YouTube chat earlier here. But Wan'Dale Robinson, man, this is not the first time we've seen him blow up with a big time game. Think about the Dallas game earlier in the 2025 season. Robinson is a force to be reckoned with, whether it's Dart or whether it's Winston. I'm looking at this guy being like a solid top 20 guy pretty much every week going forward. Now, Mark, am I wrong in that?
I think there's some nuance there. We look at how he was utilized in the offense, and this is dating back to the first 3 weeks when obviously they had a different quarterback under center in Russell Wilson. His ADOT was at a career high those first 3 weeks. The structure of his routes, he was running more downfield. He was kind of breaking the mold of that, like run down the field 5 yards and turn around receiver. And then the injection of Jackson Dart came into the offense, and he kind of went back to those previous tendencies where he was just kind of this possession style slot only receiver. It makes sense because they are without Malik Neighbors. They need to give Jackson Dart, this rookie quarterback stepping into this broken situation, they need to give him something easy to hit. So that made sense. And then Jameis Winston comes in and we see him running 7 to 9 routes again. Mm-hmm. He absolutely burned the 2 defenders on that flea flicker. They were just caught, they were coming up to address the run, and then obviously was a pass play. So I think it depends. I would expect him to kind of shift back to, particularly with Darius Slayton back in the lineup, I would expect him to kind of switch back to that lower ADOT, medium ADOT type role, which is obviously going to have an influence on his upside because those are lower upside routes. Those are your crossers. Those are your slants. Those are your quick breaking out routes. It's hard to generate yak on those type of routes. It's hard to rack up yardage on those routes. You're going to get, just based on the meta of today's defenses, where they have more eyes looking at in the backfield. They have more eyes seeing the play develop in front of them. They're rallying to the point of reception. So I think it depends on how he's utilized with Dart. What we've seen is that he was kind of running these 4 through 6 routes. He was running slants, these in breakers, these quick outbreakers, these hitches as an outlet for Dart, because this has not been a forward leaning downfield attacking offense with Dart. What has changed is like he is going out there and grown manning and sustaining drives. So I don't know. I actually have a little bit of pause with Dart coming back on Wan'Dale.
And it's like, listen, I try not to get carried away, but sometimes it's difficult, especially after a game like what we saw with that Giants Lions. matchup yesterday. The Panthers are already off the field. We had a Rico Dowdle 4-yard carry, a Tommy Tremble 12-yard catch that was called back due to holding, Rico Dowdle 3-yard catch, and then a Chuba Hubbard 10-yard run on 3rd and 13. Panthers decide to punt it. It goes out of bounds at San Francisco's 8-yard line. So the Niners getting the ball back, 3 minutes, 40 seconds to go in the first quarter, with Carolina trailing San Francisco 7-0. JJ Zachariason from late round had an X post, I think it was yesterday, and he said, just when we start thinking Jameson Williams is a reliable fantasy guy, he goes and retires on us, which was really frustrating to see. Yesterday, Jameson Williams got 3 targets. He did not catch any of them, Mark. 207 yards and 2 touchdowns combined over his last 2 games. Coming into this game, you think he's just going to feast against the Giants, and he just faded away. Amon-Ra St. Brown gets 13 targets. Williams did have a 25-yard catch in this game, but it was called back on a penalty. And then just a target, 6% of his routes against the Giants secondary. The Packers come to Motor City on Thanksgiving. I would imagine that we would see more Jameson Williams this week, but who the hell knows at this point? This is a warning sign for anybody in the FFPC getting ready for their league playoffs in the championship round. Yes, Jameson Williams could have this massive spike week, but now we know his floor is 0, Mark. Certainly frustrating to see.
And this is another structure thing. Dan Campbell took over offensive play calling duties 3 games ago, so that was his 3rd game. In the first 2 games, they play zone-heavy defenses, and we see more in-breaking, target smoothing type routes from Jameson Williams. He was running a lot more crossers. Then they face a Giants team who was number 1 in the league in man coverage rate, and we see him almost exclusively running 7 to 9s. Mm-hmm. He was not running in-breaking stuff. He was stretching the top end off of the opposing defense. And the reason that Jared Goff was not able to take those downfield shots to him is because the Giants were living in his face. They were all up in his grill. They were doing a good job of generating pressure, and they were unable to have, 1, those routes develop downfield, and 2, he didn't have the time to take those downfield shots. So it made sense to me, like, okay, that's why we're seeing 26 or whatever combined targets between Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs. That made sense to me. Like, structurally speaking, they probably came into the game thinking we're going to run JMO in these 7 to 9 routes because we're going to have time to throw. We're going to attack downfield, man coverage. We're going to take what they're giving us. They just didn't. Their offensive line did not hold up as I think they expected. So now flip that forward to the Packers, who are this cover 3 base defense, this umbrella defense, this we're going to force everything short because we don't want to give up explosives. We want to make you march the field against us. They're doing that effectively now because their situational tendencies are much better than they were with Eric or whatever the hell Barry. Joe Barry, who they had last season. So I would expect actually now to see JMO running more in breaking routes and looking to take advantage of his speed and his separation ability within the first 5, 10, 15 yards of the line of scrimmage. So I would think he actually has a higher floor this coming week than he did last week.
Okay, so there you go with Jameson Williams, painting a brighter picture, hopefully in week 13 than in week 12. Massive game field flipping play here. Brock Purdy goes play action on 1st and 10, and he is picked off by J.C. Horn, who stepped in. Pretty good coverage, honestly, from J.C. Horn in front of Jawan Jennings. He returns it all the way down to the 14-yard line. The 16-yard line. We get a Bryce Young scramble for 5 yards, and then on 2nd down, it's Rico Dowdle toting the rock for a 3-yard game. 3rd and 2 now from the San Francisco 8 with 2:49 to go in the first quarter. Are you ahead of me? What happened on 3rd down? Did you see this?
Bryce Young just got lit up.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so there you go. So it's probably field goal time. Oh, no, it's not. It's 1st and goal from the 1. It's a
he got it. He got smacked though.
And so now maybe it'll be Rico Dowdle time, or I would imagine it's going to be Dowdle time, but who knows here as I'm about to watch this play. I'm very excited to see this. Was it a design run or was it?
Yeah, he rolled out bootleg.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So he rolls out to his right side, gets Tommy Tremble there, and then he gets tackled down at the 1.
And then throw. I'll let you watch that.
Okay, all right, you do that. Thank you. I'm going to tell you this right now. I want to get into the Cardinals and Jaguars game. I want to talk about the Chiefs' new running back signing with Mark Garcia from 1 Week Season and Rotoworld here. I'm going to step out and take a quick break. FFPC Weekly Challenge Live, no draft, no salary cap, just pick 10 or 12 players dependent upon if you want to play with kickers and defenses. Went up to $2,500, 10, 30, 100 team contest, one player per NFL team. MyFFPC.com is where to go. Bryce Young picked off in the end zone, mother of God.
Dear God, no.
You have Rico Dowdle there. This is the shades of Marshawn Lynch in the Super Bowl. Unbelievable stuff. So the Niners get the ball back at their own 20. After Purdy throws an interception, Bryce Young throws an interception, you get an interception, you get an interception, you get some good analysis from Mark Garcia coming back right after this. You're watching FFPC Insider Access here live on the Better Sports Network.
Folks, let me talk to you about my favorite weekly platform to play on. We all play Dynasty and we all play Redraft, but we got to find some place to play weekly. And the FFPC Weekly Challenge is my favorite. If you're like me and you're tired of the constraints of salary caps or having to do a draft to make a team or even having to play against these people that are stacking up the same team, stacking up certain games, and you feel like you have to put in a million entries or have to have those certain stacks to win, then come play over at FFPC. Really, the only main rule that you have to deal with is that you cannot select multiple players from the same team. I'm going out and I'm trying to find the best of the best of the best players and put them into a lineup. And that's what you can do over at MyFFPC. You can go out and you can take the number one running back in Bijan Robinson, and you can also have Saquon Barkley. As long as they're not in the same team, you can put them all into a lineup, right? And there's 4 flexes for this, so there's a lot of flexibility. There's 2 different contests, one that has kickers and defenses, one that's just position players. Then you also have a bunch of different price points you can play at, $35, $100, or $200 buy-in. And you're going out and you're just picking the absolute chalk plays, maybe sneaking in a little bit of a sleeper there, somebody that you think can really blow up that week. And that's how it works. It's one of the best contests out there for the sharpest gamers. And when you win on the FFPC, people take notice. That is where the best high stakes games are. That's where the best experts play. And that's where I play because I want to be an FFPC champion and put that title on me, put the money in my pocket and put that in my bio, FFPC champion. And the FFPC weekly contest is the best place to play during the season.
MyFFPC.com. MyFFPC.com is where to go. One player per NFL team in these weekly challenge contests. So if you want to play Alvin Kamara, you cannot have Chris Olave. If you want to deal in the likes of Bo Nix, you may not have RJ Harvey on your team. Win up to $2,500, 10, 30, and 100 team contest. No draft, no salary cap. Just pick your 10 or 12 players if you want to play with kickers and defenses. Beg your pardon, in the FFPC Weekly Challenge. So much more to get to here on the show tonight. God, we only have, we got to fly through this. There's 60 minutes left. This is insane. It's because we're having such a great conversation.
Yeah,
Mark Garcia from 1 Week Season, at 1 Week Season on X, at HiLo FF on X, of course, Rotoworld_FB, Rotoworld.com. What are you doing for Rotoworld? It seems like you're doing like weekly stuff, but injury stuff, prediction stuff. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, me and Nick Bodyford, who joined Rotoworld this past season, are heading up the weekly injury report, where I started off on Tuesday, Nick updates it on Wednesday, and then I bring it home on Saturday, bringing up the most up-to-date injury stuff over there at Rotoworld. And then I am, handling your standard Rotoworld news shifts where they're putting out the blurbs, and then watching games and reporting on that as well.
Which is fantastic. A lot of good stuff going on there. A lot of good stuff going on. If you got Christian McCaffrey in fantasy, he gets another catch here. No, not a catch. It was a catch. 9-yard catch on first down, which has taken us to the end of the first quarter here in Santa Clara. The Niners holding a 7-point lead. McCaffrey, 7 carries, 32 yards, 4 catches for 21 yards. unbelievable stuff here.
11 touches in the first quarter.
Yeah, it's just I don't. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, disregard everything I said earlier.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like you have. So this dude turns 30 next year, and they're giving this 29-year-old running back the workload of a 23-year-old running back, which is just insane. I mean, there are 23 and 24-year-old running backs whose teams would never give them. They're the young guys. They would never give him this amount of volume, whatever, man. When he gets hurt or if he goes down, nothing surprises.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
I'm not going to put that evil on you, Ricky Bobby, but I will just say, if it does happen, and I hope it doesn't, I won't be surprised. And my Brian Robinson shares would be looking pretty good then as well.
I think honestly that is probably a big reason why they're comfortable with Brian Robinson now, and they it's kind of who Kyle Shanahan is. He's like, we have the talent, we're going to build the offense around it, and he just knows that like it's next man up mentality if something happens.
Right.
It's bit him in the ass a couple times, but that's just kind of who he is.
I want to go to Arizona here, speaking of the NFC West, and talk about Michael Wilson and what he's been able to do these last couple of weeks. So you look at what he did yesterday against Jacksonville. 15 targets. This is some Jamar Chase level stuff here. 10 of them he catches, goes for 118 yards. Some of them were contested. He was breaking tackles. He was doing it all. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. has now missed 2 games with the appendectomy, right? And there's a non-zero chance that he does not play this week. And I don't know if you have any insight in this. You probably don't. You're not a doctor, but you did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Mark, if Harrison is out again, I mean, is it just an auto start for Michael Wilson? I mean, it's Tampa. I mean, they can be, if you look at that game last night, the Rams were up 21-0, and they're still throwing the ball. I think because they knew they could throw the ball against the Tampa secondary better than they could run it with Tyrone Williams and Blake Corum. And I feel like this is going to be something we see again next week. I mean, Michael Wilson, top 20, top 15 wide receiver next week. I don't know, maybe.
I think so. And I think, again, I'm very inquisitive, just how I'm wired. And so I'm always looking for the causal factor. Like, why is this happening? Why is Michael Wilson doing this when Marvin Harrison Jr. couldn't and was doing this? And I think the answer for the Cardinals is twofold. First off, the structure of this offense looks so much better with Jacoby Brissett under center. It just is so much more fluid. They are able to get him under center. Kyler Murray hates it. They are able to execute play action off of that. They're able to keep opposing defenses on their back heels. Whereas with Kyler, it was like they had to, in my opinion, they had to design the offense around who Kyler Murray is and was, which is, again, in my not so expert opinion, not a good NFL quarterback. So it just looks so much better. And I have been the worst fan. What is that? Anti-fan? I don't know. I have been the
hater. You're a hater.
Okay, we'll throw it out there. I've been the biggest Kyler Murray hater over the last 2 seasons. And now I was a very big coaching staff in Arizona hater, but now I'm kind of reassessing that call. I think it's a Kyler Murray issue. So I don't know how this franchise is going to go moving forward. Jacoby Brissett, to me, is saying that Kyler Murray is not the franchise quarterback they thought he was. The other side of that coin is like a compounding effect, because Marvin Harrison Jr., for all of the fantastic athleticism and leaping high point catches he makes, he is not a fully developed NFL wide receiver yet. He is not running those. And again, I point to what the team is asking him to do. They're keeping him on the perimeter. He very rarely is running any in-breaking stuff. So we talk about how you have to build an offense around that. If they're not trusting him to do that, what are they saying to me? And to me, that's saying he is not fully developed enough to go out there and be asked to do all that extra stuff. He's not being asked to go out there and block. He's not being asked to go run a a sluggo. He's not being asked to go run a 7-yard inbreaker. Like he's just being like numbers and out. And to me, that just tells me that like he's not there yet. So now enter Michael Wilson and his like veteran understanding of the game of football. He has been on the field a lot for this team in a secondary role, but he's been asked to do the nitty gritty. He's been asked to do the blocking stuff. He's been asked to run some of these higher confidence in breaking stuff. And so it doesn't surprise me really that we're seeing the combination of Jacoby Brissett allowing the offense to be more fluid and Michael Wilson and his veteran savvy, who's already, worked 3 years at this craft and understands how to diagnose the holes in zone defense. They're giving him option routes. We haven't seen Marvin Harrison Jr. run an option route. Come on. So it's not surprising to me that we're seeing what we're seeing out of Arizona.
Do you think Harrison gets to be the receiver that we thought he was going to be?
It's going to take time based on what we've seen. I don't doubt that he can get there. It just, in my eye, he's not there yet.
Yeah. Which makes perfect sense for me as well. It is just wild too when you think about what we thought about this Cardinals offense at the start of the season. I put a lot of the stuff last year on why Harrison and Murray couldn't hook up with with Harrison running all these go routes and fades, and they hardly got him anything over the middle. So I was of the opinion that Harrison was going to bounce back this year. And I love the ADP. I mean, he was going like 3 or 4 rounds later than he was last year. And I'm like, this is a player that you want to be in business with, right? But then at the same time, it's like we're in week 12 and it's not Murray and Harrison. It's Jacoby Brissett and Michael Wilson, which is just crazy. Let's move on. And I'll give an update on the game. We had a let's see. It was a George Kittle. It was McCaffrey for 9. George Kittle gets an 11-yard catch. We finally found George Kittle. Brian Robinson for 3 yards. Christian McCaffrey for 5 yards. McCaffrey for 1. Purdy picks up the first down, 3 yards, and then Christian McCaffrey a 3-yard gain. A Brock Purdy scramble. We have a 9-play drive here, Mark, as we are now 1st and 10 from the Carolina 32. 10:30 to go in the second quarter, and somebody wants to say hi.
Hello.
All right. Can you
Hi.
say hi to Mark?
I want to give a shout out. Today is Dad's birthday.
It is.
Oh,
yes.
Happy birthday, Papa Bear.
Thank you. All right. We'll see you later. Thanks for popping in. My daughter, Emma, ladies and gentlemen, Emma Balkman popping on the show tonight.
Actually, Owen.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Now go upstairs and don't come down here again. Okay. Let's get back to it.
I love it, man. I love it.
The interruption. There you go. Where was I? Brenton Strange. 5 catches on 5 targets, 93 yards in the win over the Cardinals. I regretted not starting him. I had to make a choice at tight end. I don't even know who I picked. It was like Noah Fant or somebody. And I should have gone with Brenton Strange. No Travis Hunter here. No Brian Thomas still. I wonder if Strange is about to go on a run. Is he the type of player you want to be in business with from a weekly standpoint, as long as Thomas, as long as Hunter is out? And then what do you think when Brian Thomas does come back, Mark? What do you think Brenton Strange's role is going to be in this offense? Can he still put up? I mean, I know he can, but do you think he's still going to put up 5, for 90 when Thomas gets back?
First off on Strange, this is a guy that they were comfortable enough to just kind of stick with, obviously after Evan Ingram left. But like he came into the league as a blocking tight end. Like he was a 12 guy. He was going to be a 12 personnel type tight end. And then was kind of asked to do more at the tail end of last season with the injury there to Evan Ingram. And they kind of just were like, okay, well, let's see where this kind of goes. So I don't think that, I mean, in my eyes, he has a lot of growing that he still has to do to become like a multifaceted tight end. I'm not comparing him to George Kittle, but like what George Kittle does, like he is elite blocker. He's able to go and generate these mismatches over the middle of the field and can do it all as a tight end. Like he has a long way to go for that. And again, I point back to like the structure of his routes. He's running a lot of the stuff within the first 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, a lot of in the flat. So I think that he can continue to develop. Like he's not there. And I would be a little bit hesitant kind of pointing to his game last week as an indicator. First off, like Liam Cohen wants to be a run focused team. He wants to be a team that is keeping teams off balance via his run game. And I think a lot of that has to do with like who Trevor Lawrence is telling us he is, which is not great. Like I keep waiting, man. I've been like a Lawrence believer for so long, and I'm just like, one more again. You're gonna do it one more again, and I'm like, I promise it's coming. Like it's just not coming, man. I don't know. He does not look good as an NFL quarterback. He's got great freaking hair. I'm trying to emulate it, but just not there yet. And so I think Liam Cohen is like kind of noticing that and obviously adjusting his offense, which is we didn't talk about this earlier, but I want to give a quick shout to or not a shout, but like discuss the Vikings a little bit. Like Kevin O'Connell, man, do something to help your quarterback out here, dude. He's not making things easy. Like Jalen Naylor has a 13 point something ADOT, Justin Jefferson in the 11s, Jordan Addison in the 12s, and TJ Hawkinson. Did you see that play in like week 5 where he was like doing a triple deke against nobody? He was like sitting in the middle of the field and he's like, and he never broke. Like, I don't know what's going on, but he's very clearly not right yet. So Kevin O'Connell needs to do something to alter the structure of that team. But Liam Cohen is doing that. He's leaning into what's working. It's not his quarterback. I would kind of draw a corollary between the Jaguars and the Panthers in that like their coaches are smart. They understand the game. They're doing things to make things easier on their quarterback. So I don't think they want, Trevor Lawrence back there dropping back even 32, 35 times. That probably is going to influence the upside in a fantasy setting of all pass catchers. We
have another turnover in the game tonight.
Yeah, dude.
It's just been nuts. So after the Purdy scramble, you have a completion to Juwan Jennings for 4 yards, then an incompletion to Demarcus Robinson. The Niners then call timeout, only to dial up a play where Brock Purdy, buying time, throws it. I don't
make that throw against cover 3, man. You just don't.
I don't want to say it was a 50-50 ball. Like he had Pearsall. There was one defender there. But, I mean, the defender fairly easily picked it off right in front of Pearsall.
Strong side safety sitting on it.
Yeah, exactly. Mike Jackson is the guy who ends up picking it off, and he falls into the end zone. It will be Carolina ball. I believe, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, this will be at the 20.
Looked like it, yeah. I think he was on the end zone.
All right, so it will be Carolina ball, 9:35 to go in the second quarter. Unbelievable. We have 3 turnovers in this game, which is as many rushing yards as Rico Dowdle has. Crazy. Okay, let's go rapid fire on some of these things. Let's see. Dameon Pierce signs to the Kansas City Chiefs this week after the Texans release him. How much interest should fantasy players have in picking up Dameon Pierce, knowing the Chiefs running back situation?
Negligible. It looks like Pacheco's due back this week.
So you think he's just a depth guy?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Jordan Addison got 1 target. He did not catch it against the Packers on Sunday. Jordan Addison should be on fantasy benches until he shows something. Is that what you believe?
I think you could make that case for the entirety of the Vikings. You're not benching Justin Jefferson, but like you're not benching him, but like you don't feel even great clicking his name right now.
Obviously like McCarthy could get it at some point, but for right now, they're unplayable. I mean, Jefferson's the only guy that's playable, and even him, it's like you kind of grimace when you put him in your lineup.
Yeah, exactly.
Emanuel Wilson, 28 carries for 107 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Vikings. That was a game where Matt LaFleur just totally took the air out of the ball, kind of with a look ahead to Detroit on Thursday. Didn't really need to do much to beat J.J. McCarthy. My question for you is, how much do you think, now that Wilson has shown what he's capable of, how much do you think that he eats into Josh Jacobs' workload when Jacobs is back and healthy?
I don't think anything. Emanuel Wilson, we have to understand like who he is. He is like a 230-pound bowling ball that is like, he's not to Cam Scadaboo's level of like bowling ballness where he's just going to like get a yard after contact on every carry and he's never going to make anyone miss. He's just going to roll through guys. But he's kind of in that same kind of archetype of player. They got very lucky where the ball was down inside the 5 at multiple instances against the Vikings, and Emanuel Wilson, plotted his way to 1 yard after contact and got into the end zone twice. He's not Josh Jacobs. Like, he's a capable enough pass catcher for his size. Like, I think he's who they wanted AJ Dillon to be. They like this guy who can catch the football that is a big short yardage guy. He's not Josh Jacobs. I don't think that we should be at all worried about Jacobs' workload coming back. The only thing that will hold Josh Jacobs' workload is Josh Jacobs' health. And we saw it with a calf injury. He had the 3 weeks where he was between 50-60% of the offensive snaps. And that's really just it.
It was Tyrone McMillan for 6, Chuba Hubbard for 2, a drop. That would have been a first down by Tyrone McMillan on 3rd down, and the Panthers could not take advantage of the turnover. They have now punted. It is going to be a first down for the Niners at their own 17, 8 minutes to go in the first half. Mark, that is going to do it for our show tonight at Hilo FF, 1 week season at 1 week season on X, as well as Rotoworld_FB, rotoworld.com. What are you specifically churning out for everybody who wants to consume more of your content this season?
There's weekly shows via the 1 week season YouTube channel. I build DFS rosters every Tuesday. You can catch Searching for Ceiling with the great Rich Rebar every Friday at noon Eastern. And then most of what else I do for 1 week season are breaking down the games. So game write-ups, you can get those for free with a free account over at 1 week season. If you're into the game theory stuff, I coined myself the game theory dude. If you're into that kind of thing, all of that stuff is over at 1 week season. That is behind a paywall. You'll have to check out Inner Circle. The good news is you can do so at an 80% discount for Black Friday sale this week. So you can head on over to oneweekseason.com, check that out. It's called Inner Circle, and all the subscriptions over there are 80% off. And then we talked about kind of what's going on over at Rotoworld.
oneweekseason.com for the Inner Circle. Is there a code or anybody that they have to type in?
You can get the 80% off sale just by clicking the banner at the site. If you want, you can utilize code HILO. That'll get you 20% off additionally.
There you go. I mean, listen, he's just giving you the keys to the mint, and he's not asking very much for it in return. He is Hilo FF, Mark Garcia, joining me tonight on the FFPC Insider Access Show. Always fun having these conversations with you, Mark. I know I'm a better fantasy owner because of it. Keep up all the great work, and we'll talk with you again very soon. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. This was a blast, dude.
Absolutely. It always is. FFPC Weekly Challenge, myffpc.com. Check it out. No draft, no salary cap. Pick your players, went up to $2,500, one player per team, myffpc.com. I want to remind everybody, no show this Thursday night for Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. We'll be back the following Thursday for that Cowboys-Lions game. It's going to be a lot of fun. For our producer, Sean Engel, for Mark Garcia, I'm Eric Balkman. This has been FFPC Insider Access on the Better Sports Network. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the game tonight.